Keith and I started dating when we were juniors in high school, and I got quite a crush on him after hearing my girlfriend talk about this kid. I didn't know him when we were junior or when we were sophomores at Union High. That was our first year at the new Union High School, and Luann was telling me about this cute guy that she was needing in her seminary, in her chemistry class, but I didn't ever go to a class that he was in. I don't remember ever seeing. So I got curious about it, and when I found out he was going to seminary with me the next year, then I just made arrangements to just happened to be going over across the street to the seminary building when he was, and so we got acquainted, and I can't believe how shocked I was when he first said here on the roll, because his voice was so low. Anyway, but we started dating, and we dated our junior and senior years, and when we graduated from high school in May, and in September, Keith invited me to go with his family out to the state fair, because they were in cattle business. They raised registered Hereford cattle, and so they always had cattle in the show. And I'd never been at the state fair because my family just wasn't involved in that sort of thing. My dad was a Gilt's Night miner, and we lived in Tridell, and that's where we lived, and that's where we did everything. Roosevelt and Tridell's about all the life I knew, and Vernal a little bit. But anyway, so we went to the state fair, and when we took a break in the middle of the day, we went and drove down on Main Street, and Keith and his dad got out, and they went into the jewelry shop and bought a ring, and they came out, and the family all got out and went for a walk down the hall, and that's when he asked me if I'd marry him, and I said yes, and he gave me the ring, and we got married a month and a half later, because, you know, he was not going to go to school, he wasn't going to go on a mission, and that wasn't exactly what his parents had hoped and planned for, but we did. We got married, and we've been married 60 years, and it's been mostly really, really good. But then you take me, and I have very definite opinions, and I'm very bullheaded and strong-willed, and so we have conflict. But then, you know, we've learned now that we can have our conflict and get over it and go on with life and not nag at past disagreements you know. So for the most part, life has been good. We've never ever had to depend on anybody else for our financial existence, because we have always budgeted very closely so that our money went, and we lived on a meager income for a lot of years, not an awful lot of money, but then we didn't expect an awful lot. And what we've acquired, we paid for as we went, and we didn't ever acquire a big debt. So it's been good. We're very secure and solvent, and started the business when Philip was 18 months old. And so we created Basin Wholesale West, which was a part of another business, but we bought the west half of it and started that. And it's grown into a albatross. A lot more work than we have men to do it, but you can't hire people for full time when they only need some days, one day or something. We have a lot of boys that work for us, and we've tried to make it an opportunity for hiring boys to give them a decent wage that they could make money for their missions, and a lot of them have gone on missions that we've tried to help them with that. So that's been a focal point, you know. I'm always embarrassed. In this day and age, it wouldn't have been embarrassing, but when I was dating Keith, my mother had made me a full slip. It had lots of fabric, a big full slip, and we'd been down to his place, and we'd left there and went to get in the car, and the elastic in the waist broke, and my slip fell to the ground, and I about died, because in our day, you know, your underclothing was totally private. It was concealed if you could, and here I was, and I said, I don't know what to do. But my sister was in an apartment in town here, and so I said, let's go up there. So I went up there and was able to switch from one slip to the other. And that was terribly embarrassing. You know, and in this day and age, you'd say, oh, my slip fell. Oh, for heck's sake, you'd take it off and go without it, you know. But in our day, you know, you just didn't do that. Modesty was a very chastity and privacy. It was just, I see girls with their underwear straps showing, and I think, I can't believe this. I don't like it. His dad and mother wanted him to go on a mission, and they had him already signed up to go to BYU. They had a place out there for him to stay when he graduated from high school, and next fall he was going to go to BYU. And he said, that's what I was going to do. And I said, well, that's okay, but I'm not going to stick around and wait for all those years. Because, see, I couldn't go to school because my parents were not. What would I do, you know? And so I just told him, well, you know, be on your own, buddy, because I'm not going to be an idle chicken waiting for you to decide what you're going to do. And so he just told his mom, he says, no, he says, that's more important to me to get married than it is to go on a mission. And he didn't want to. He was a very quiet, backward person. And so doing that was not something that he was really excited. And it wasn't the thing that it is now. If it were now, he probably had grown up being taught, you know, you go on a mission. But we didn't talk about that. Out of our whole graduating class, we probably had about 7 or 8 young men that went on missions. That's all, because it just wasn't, more of them went into military service. A lot of the boys got married and started raising a family. So we weren't unique and different, because a lot of the kids got married at the same times that we did. So it was an acceptable thing. Keith always loved the trucks. He always wanted to drive trucks, and he drove, when he was 16, he was driving. His dad had a truck that he hauled cattle and hay from here over to Woodland, back and forth, you know, in the cattle business. And he did a lot of driving just because he was good. In fact, as soon as he got his license, he was allowed to drive because he'd throw up and get sick when they'd go anywhere. So once it was a relief, because he couldn't sit in the back seat, he'd get car sick. So when he took over the wheel, and he's a super good driver, professional driver in every respect, he really is. And he didn't really take up truck driving until Philip was a baby, and then we bought he'd been working with in Basin Wholesale. We saw hauling groceries, and he worked for this guy, and this guy finally had a year that was horrible. The trucks wouldn't start him. It was in February, and he couldn't get them fine. He just said, I've had it. So he says, I want to sell out. So we bought the business, Basin Wholesale, half of it from him. He was going to stay in business and work from Vernal East, and we were going to work this from here back west. And so we bought it. And Paul was in college then. And he called Paul and said, do you want to quit a business with me? I'm going to buy a grocery business, and I've got to have somebody to do the buy-in and this stuff. And so he started driving full-time then. He drove before that. He had a friend that was driving cement, and he taught him how to drive a diesel truck. And so he learned on this noisy, miserable Mack truck that was so blasted loud, because I rode with him a time or two. And it was noisy. But he learned to drive there. But then we didn't buy, and we only had one diesel truck when we started. We had one diesel truck and a bobtail truck and a pickup. That's what we started the business. We used the driveway for our warehouse because we didn't have a warehouse yet. But then we built the one, and then we built the second one. And we've just accumulated the trucks and paid for them as we went, and have always been very solvent. We've not had financial difficulties as far as not being able to make our payments and stuff. We've always been good. The boys, each one of them, we told them if they wanted to come into the business, they could come in as a full partner, but they could make their choices, you know, decided. Each one of them on their own decided, yeah, I'll go into business. So that's why they all work together. And for the most part, it's been good. I worked and did book work. Keith just kind of taught me how to do it. He'd taken a class on financial class in accounting down at the vocational school, and he just learned all that stuff. And so we just, you know, you just build your own procedures and how you keep track. And so I did the book work, but it was here in the house, and so I had the little kids and did that for when they were little, so I could even work at home. And then when they got bigger, we had the warehouse built down there, and then I started going down to the warehouse to work in the office.